When we work with lunar rhythms, it just gives any kind of ritual or ceremony we do a little extra energetic heft, a little oomph. And a full moon is when the moon reaches the peak of its power, the apex of its power, and then releases. And so we're harnessing those lunar vibes to help us release energetically what no longer serves us, what's standing in our way. And it can be attitudes, beliefs, narratives, old stories we've been telling about ourselves or other people. It can be pain, hurt, grudges. It's this incredibly empowering and cathartic exercise / ritual where you say, I am now ready to release, or I now choose to release. And then you write whatever it is. And I do at the beginning of every Burn Your Shit, I do a little grounding exercise to help us sort of get in the zone to come up with what that is. And I now choose to release, shame about whatever, or anger towards that person. And then you light it on fire. And as it starts to burn, you say, and so it is.
So it is. Welcome to the House of Germar podcast, where wellness starts within. The House of Germar is a lifestyle brand, empowering women to live all in through interior design and personal wellness. We are a destination for women ready to reimagine what is possible in their homes and lives, and then create it. We are honored to have you join us on our mission to empower 1 million women to live all in. I am your host, Jean Collins, and I invite you to become inspired by this week's guest. Welcome to the House of Germar podcast, where wellness starts within. I'm your host, Jean Collins, and this week, get ready, we're talking witchy. We have Tarot Lori on the show. This is Lori Deanne. She wrote a book called, ready folks, Burn Your Shit. It's so great. It's about rituals. She's known as Tarot Lori on Instagram, and I am so excited to talk to her. And we are recording this on Friday, the 13th in December. So I look at this as a really special, magical, mystical day. So having Lori on this day is really great. So Lori, welcome to the House of Germar podcast, and thank you for being here.
Jean, I'm so happy to be here. Thank you for having me.
I love it. And I follow you on Instagram. I repost your stuff. I have friends who now follow you, and everyone's like, she's so great. I'm like, I know, I get to talk to her. How cool is this?
I appreciate it. Thank you. Thank you.
And I love you're into woo, and I love it. But I think you make woo and witchy cool. And so I'm really excited to share that with people because you make it really actionable and really real and connect the dots for a lot of people. It's not just like woo and witchy and like way out there. So I am so excited to talk about your book. And just so everybody knows, I have read your book. I have done your new moon rituals. I've done your full moon rituals. I've hired you to do tarot card readings. So I'm going to share along the way some of the things that I've learned by interacting with you and your platform and the services that you have, because it's actually been really impactful. And one in particular, I'll talk about it a little bit later, the new moon. You reframed and changed the way I think about everything. So to get started, why don't you share with us a little bit about your career journey, because you were not Tarot Lori all of your life. So how did this even come about?
It's true. I think I was Tarot Lori my whole life, and I just didn't realize it because I've always been into, the mystical, the metaphysical. And I grew up in Calgary, Alberta. And in the late 80s, there was no internet. So if you wanted to see a psychic, you had to know someone who knew the psychic. And there was this one psychic, Erica, in my town who everyone saw. And she was, she had everything. She had red velvet wallpaper and brooms and crystal balls doing potions and everything. And she became my mentor. When she took the cards out, I was just immediately enthralled by them. Like, tell me everything about those. Like, your crystals are nice. What are those cards all about?
Yeah.
I don't know. That was like a little, I got goosies just talking about it. It's like a love at first sight situation. And I have a communications degree. So I had like a job for many years, but I always did tarot on the side. And I always say this, and no one believes me, but it really is true, that I did not get fired from at least 2 jobs because I would take my clients for lunch and give them tarot card readings.
Really?
That is how I kept everyone happy. So I was always doing tarot, and that's why I was like, oh, Lori, Tarot Lori, like the one who does the tarot. So that's sort of how that moniker stuck. And I just started doing more and more. And then I, left corporate world and started doing freelance writing because I have a writing background to have more balance. And then again, it's that tipping point, right? Where it's either I have to start saying no to the writing gigs or no to the tarot gigs. So it was a no-brainer for me, even though it was really scary at the time.
Terrifying. And how long ago was that?
I mean, it was way before COVID. It was a while ago. I've been doing this for over 30 years. My deck is 35 years old.
And your deck is beautiful. I bought myself a deck. It looks nothing like yours. I'm like,
Well, I
yours
know it
is so
takes,
cool.
yeah. Every reading I've ever done is in this deck. So it's very worn. When I do workshops and people bring their brand new, it's just a Rider-Waite Smith deck, which is a pretty standard.
Right.
It's sort of the one everyone's familiar with. They bring out their shiny new ones and they almost look like different images.
Yeah.
It's interesting.
So when did you decide I can actually make this a business? Like this has enough legs to it to be something that I can financially support myself with and love. How did you decide that?
Well, there were a couple of false starts. And I'm very transparent about that. There were a couple of times where I was like, I'm going to be a tarot card reader. I'm going all in. And I got, space at a little woo-woo place and decided, okay, I'm going all in on this. And then it immediately becomes flinchy and terrifying because it's like, the mortgage payment depends on this, or, this reading is a groceries. It just became immediately way too much pressure. And it just, it stuttered before it could even start. So eventually, after a couple of false starts like that, and it was olden days. I was leaving like the little paper up with the little pieces of paper that you rip off like at the grocery store. And I just get like high school kids calling me. It was a mess. But I didn't give up because I couldn't give up because it's what I'm meant to do. And, this worked. And so I was just a lot more intentional and thoughtful about it and, committed to doing. I built up, as I was doing tarot stuff, I was also building up my freelance writing roster. Yeah. And it just ended up working. And sometimes, I worked at my naturopath's office for a few months. Like I would just sort of bring things here and there. And like I said, it started to build and build. And it was really interesting that the more attention I put to it, I'm always saying where focus goes, energy flows. And the more focus I put to it, the more it started to grow. But it did take that moment of like taking the leap and creating that vacuum by saying, no, I am not going to be able to do that project for you. Which is like,
is so
closing
hard.
the door and a little dollar bill. And what was beautiful is that within a couple of weeks, that vacuum was filled with tarot.
Wow. Oh, it's like I have chills.
Because I did it properly.
Literally have goosebumps as you're saying that, because that's what we talk about. And so many of us want to get to that point, but it's just so hard to actually manifest that. And we're going to talk about manifesting in a minute because you have a whole chapter on that. So how did you decide to write a book?
Shane, I kind of didn't. Here's how it's also a masterclass in manifesting, this whole book thing, because I had a little Zoom recorded Tarot 101 with my interpretations, like workshop online that I was selling. And I created this little PDF to go with it, just like you get with the decks, a little book. And then I started sort of expanding, showing little stories of each card in practical application, like real stories of the card's message showing up in my life or my clients' lives or things like that. And so each card then had a little story with it. So it was growing and growing. And I was thinking, God, and I had all these friends who were doing self-publishing who weren't, like trained or working as writers. And I thought, maybe I'll publish this and make like a book. And then I started investigating it and I started thinking, well, maybe you got to try and get an agent. Like why? I got to try and get an agent. So, I'm still working on the book as this is happening, but then I start to, take the action of querying agents and doing research on how to do a book proposal, because nonfiction, you need like a 60-page nonfiction book proposal. Yeah. And then I started thinking, well, what about if I just go to I started with a publisher, like maybe self-publish, or maybe the publisher will pay me, maybe I'll get an agent. And I started thinking, what if I get an agent and with like a big 5 publisher? Like it sort of was a shift. I always tell people it was this shift from why not me to more like, why not me?
Right.
Like, why not me?
Why not me?
So,
right.
I have this, and I would visualize myself opening the box of books coming from the publisher and seeing the book. I got these things about. I didn't know what the book was called or what it was even about, but I would be holding that book and just, oh my God. And I ended up getting a meeting with Harper Collins, and they were interested in the tarot book to the extent that they knew I could write, but part of your book proposals, you have to talk about marketing initiatives. So I mentioned Burn Your Shit, this thing I do on Instagram Live every month that anyone can join. It's this full moon fire release ritual. That had been like 2 days prior. So when we got on our call, which is actually about this time 2 years ago, they were like, yeah, about the tarot, but tell us about rituals. What's the Burn Your Shit thing you do? And I had a friend who had advised me, go into this meeting with book 2 in mind. Because you don't
Ooh.
want to just be talking about a one-hit wonder, like a one-trick
Yeah.
pony. So when they talked about that, I said, well, actually, that's the second book I have in mind, which it was not at the time. Like, I
Yes.
was like, sure, why not?
Right, why not?
Right. And then it became, it shifted from a 1-book deal to a 2-book deal. Because it was like, okay, we'll take the tarot book and we're going to do the ritual book, which has actually come out first. So then I had
Right.
to write a book on rituals. I was like, I have a new moon ritual that I do manifesting, a full moon ritual where I let shit go. What are we doing with the other 10 chapters?
Right. Right.
Oh
You're
my
like,
God.
I got a lot of, that's a lot.
Right? But it became, I realized that throughout my career, I've been collecting rituals. I've been collecting the homework. I called it homework that I was giving everyone. And so when I started really sort of parceling out what these little homework things were that I was giving people, I'm like, oh, I've got a book here. So
Yeah.
that's how that happened. And then I really did have that moment of opening the box and seeing the book, and I recorded myself and I almost fainted. Like,
I remember you posted
was
on Instagram when your book
crazy.
came out. I remember. I was like, it gives me goosebumps just to remember it and to imagine how you felt to see that.
It was wild.
It is a big deal to have Harper Collins on your book cover. Like,
yeah,
that's
it's not lost on me.
That is not what happens to everyone. And what's even more amazing about this, and why so many people self-publish, and I did myself as well, is everyone says the process is so long. But you did this 2 years ago, and your book has been out for quite a while.
I mean, here's the thing. We put it out. I got an agent in September. We put the book out for submission in October. We had the meeting with Harper Collins in December. In January, we signed the contract. And then 6 months later, at the end of June, I delivered the book written.
Wow.
And then I had like a small nervous breakdown.
I would too.
It was a lot of effort. But it's also, I mean, as that was happening, I was also coming to terms with the idea that maybe I wasn't meant to be married to the person I'd been married to for 24 years. So like, as one thing is going up, extending, the other thing is going kind of down the pooper. But it also motivated me to like, okay, I've got to get this. I've got to get this done because I've got things to do.
Yeah. Did you change through that process? Did it help you? Writing helped you change?
Yep. Writing it. And I did a lot of women's circling. I was Googling spiritual women's mastermind during COVID because we were locked up raw up here in Canada. Found this woman in California doing online circles. And through that, there was a lot of magic that happened meeting with those women too, just coming to terms with who you really are and stepping into yourself. And part of that was the book. All of that happened when I started circling. And so all of it together, the alchemy of everything, it would be weird if I didn't end my marriage at the launch. Right. Because the visual I got,
you were
like,
stepping into you, and that relationship wasn't part of who you stepped into.
Yeah, blessings and everyone sees now it was for the better, even though it was horrifically difficult. But it was like fireworks or a sparkler with a weighted blanket on top, And so writing the book is the part of this coming into myself.
Yes.
And like walking my talk,
Yes. Living your truth, not just envisioning it and thinking about it and feeling it, but actually living it. So I'm going to ask this question because there are a lot of women who feel like they are meant to do something else other than what they're doing. And that journey is terrifying for the number one thing you just said, which is the realization that the relationships that you have in your life, whether it be with your friends or your coworkers or your spouse or your parents, that comes up a lot on my podcast, doesn't align with that person. So like, what did you tap into to help you get the strength to be able to keep moving forward, knowing that that could be the outcome?
It's that whole like proof is in the pudding. I mean, it was the more I felt aligned with myself and quit hiding and started, going like something sort of seemingly silly. Like I do this card of the day on Instagram every day in my reels. It's like a little tarot scope. And I started for many years, just did it in my stories because I didn't want it to last longer than 24 hours because what if I screwed up? What if I look like garbage? What if? Yes. And then when I switched to reels, it was like, this is permanent. And it's a small thing, but it's like, no, I'm making something that that is like, I'm standing by this. I'm standing in my
Yes.
integrity with this.
Yes.
And another thing, goosies. Another thing that happened during COVID, again, locked up raw, is I was coloring my hair every 3 weeks since I was 25. I'm 54. So like,
Sure.
and I couldn't get to the hairdresser. So my hair started growing out the roots and I look like half an Oreo cookie, with the white on top, brown on the bottom. And my hairdresser was finally like, the next time we have open doors, like, get in here, we got to deal with it. For so long, I was doing these Instagram, tarot scopes with my hair like in a bandana. It was a mess. And I sort of got over myself and was like, I am who I am. Like, that was the thing about COVID. There was no, hiding behind the false lashes and all the blah, blah. Like, it was just like, we're doing what we can with what we've got. And so by the time coming out of that, I felt very much myself with the silver hair and just rocking it. But I had, there's a woman on Instagram, the middle-aged goddess, Jane McCann. She's a buddy of mine. And she's the one who convinced me to let the gray come in. I was so resistant to it. I was putting eyeshadow filler powder on my roots. I was desperate. And then finally I just thought, screw it.
Just be you.
Yeah.
But that's what gets you a following, I think, so much now, right? Because Instagram is so hard. It's a constant game of you create content and people don't respond. And it's so disheartening in so many ways. It's tough as a content creator. Everything I read about and everyone I speak about and everyone I know who's successful on Instagram, it's all about being vulnerable and helping people step into their true selves because you're willing to do it to this massive unknown audience. And that's scary.
Authenticity is a word that's really, thrown around and overused, but it is being true to yourself. It is being yourself. So if I look like half an Oreo cookie and I haven't slept well, and I'm, and I love my words and
Right. It's real life.
Yeah. It reminds me of when my naturopath friend, she told me once she got home from work and it had been a rough day and she just grabbed a bag of chocolate chips, like they were probably organic carob nibs or whatever, but she just emptied this bag of chocolate chips in her mouth. And I just thought, I've never loved you more. Like, I've never wanted you to be my naturopath more, because she was showing herself to be human.
Yes.
And I think it's that humanness people see. And that's why Burn Your Shit is so effective, because people send me stuff to burn on their behalf from all over the world. And we realize we're more alike than we are different when you hear someone from Finland is wanting to release something that you feel very deeply. It's that kind of thing.
And you can relate to it. So let's talk about Burn Your Shit, because we're doing this on a Friday and Sunday is a full moon here for us. And I love to participate in your Burn Your Shit thing. I even ordered a little cauldron and it came and it's so tiny. And the thing, I was like, I ordered the biggest size and I was like, okay, 6 inches. And it came and it literally is like the tiniest little thing, but I put it in my fireplace and I do the rituals with you and I do put it in my fireplace. And I will say it burns better in the cauldron than it did in the dog bowl that I'd been using before. So like I was using a metal dog bowl.
And both are fine, right? Like both are fine. It's whatever floats your boat.
Yeah, whatever, and then so anyway, can you share what that is? Because I do the stuff that you say later too. So what is Burn Your Shit ritual for people who have no idea, which is probably most people?
Yes, it's what I call a full moon fire release ritual, which many people do and have been doing forever. I've been either participating in them or leading them for decades. And when you have the moon, when we work with lunar rhythms, it just gives any kind of ritual or ceremony we do a little extra energetic heft, a little oomph. And a full moon is when the moon reaches the peak of its power, the apex of its power, and then releases. And so we're harnessing those lunar vibes to help us release energetically what no longer serves us, what's standing in our way. And it can be attitudes, beliefs, narratives, old stories we've been telling about ourselves or other people. It can be pain, hurt, grudges. It's this incredibly empowering and cathartic exercise / ritual where you say, I am now ready to release, or I now choose to release. And then you write whatever it is. And I do at the beginning of every Burn Your Shit, I do a little grounding exercise to help us sort of get in the zone to come up with what that is. And I now choose to release, shame about whatever or anger towards that person. And then you light it on fire. And as it starts to burn, you say, and so it is.
So it is.
And then I now choose to release, la, 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 and so it is. And just watching the words burn. And sometimes one word on the paper won't burn, or a couple of words won't burn from different sentences. And it creates its own unique message, And It's so witchy, and you can be in the cauldron. I was with a bunch of witches in the woods last month doing it. It was
Yeah.
hilarious.
Yep.
On Sunday, I will be on my balcony with my little cauldron, which is honestly, like, full disclosure, it's like a tin bowl thing from dollar store because it's
Yeah.
nice and big. My little cute
Right.
one is
Yes.
can't handle
Yes.
all the ashes. And I can't explain exactly how it works beyond what I've already said, but I can definitely say that the impact is undeniable.
It is. Well, and then you also talk about taking, and at first I was like, I'm not doing this, but then I do it every time, putting water on the ashes. And
Mhm.
if you can, go and bury them. And I
Yep.
do have a special spot in my garden, and I take them out there and I bury them in the garden. And that part of my garden has crystals and everything. And so I feel like, why not? What do we have to lose? You know,
Well, and that's bringing
why
in
not?
exactly. It's not hurting, and it's not going to make
No.
things worse, right? To throw some
No.
crystals in your garden and bury some burnt paper. Who cares?
Correct.
Right?
Yes.
And to speak to sort of the book about, because Burn Your Shit, the book is all about how rituals meet us where we're at, the moment we're in, you know, and they're meant to, as a tool for self-discovery or healing or connection. And Burn Your Shit can do all of those things. And when we bring in the elements of water, which is the most purifying, fire is the most transformative, air is the engine that makes it all go. And then when you put it to the ground, you put it to rest, you know, return it to Mother Earth. That speaks to the indigenous, you know, there's an indigenous flavor to that. And I have an indigenous background. I'm a member of the Peguis band up here. So that feels good to bring all of that in. And also, you can be standing over your toilet, ripping up a piece of paper into itty bitty pieces, unless you have a septic tank, don't do that, you know, and then flush it. Flushing's great too.
It is great.
You know, it's
the
whatever
release.
speaks
It's
to
the
you.
action of the release, which I think is so special. And one of the things that you do with your Burn Your Shit ritual, and you talk about this in your book too, you reframe. Would you mind explaining what reframing is?
For me, I've come to realize, I think it's just straight up channeling because.
And you're brilliant, by the way, everyone.
I love
you're
doing
brilliant.
it. Thank you.
Brilliant.
Thank you. I enjoy doing it because someone will send me something to burn, you know, like a very glib kind of example, but it's true. It's something like, you know, I now choose to release 10 pounds from my butt, or I now choose to release, you know, constantly worrying about my weight or my physical appearance. And that's fine. That's going to still feel good to let that go. And also, how about we dig a little deeper? Like, I now choose to release being at war with my body.
Yes.
Oof, right?
Much
I
more
now
powerful.
choose to release turning my body into a measurement of beauty or success for someone who has nothing to do with me.
Right.
You know, like things like that, where that is when I do, I'm just getting goosies like crazy. When I do these reframing exercises, because I write everything that everyone says, I always handwrite it, and I'll just sort of, and I have to consolidate because there are always many that are a similar kind of theme around body or finances, people wanting to let go of them, you know, and it's not so much, I now choose to release Fred from accounting and then Fred's going to be gone. Like, it's not magic, but it's how about I now choose to release giving a crap what Fred thinks about me because I have nothing to do with him. Or I now choose to release letting conditioning from my past let me get activated by something Fred is doing in my present.
Yes.
You know,
yes.
It's deeper. So in those moments, you are stepping into your agency.
Yeah.
You know, rather than just like wishful thinking or, you know, just like hate burning.
Well, and you're focusing bigger. You're focusing on the
deeper.
Broader thing. Deeper and much more powerful and much more emotional and much bigger, not just I'd like to lose 10 pounds. I'd like to pay down my debt. It's like, let's go a little deeper than that and think about the larger impact that that's having on you as a person. And what is that? It's like, you know, they always say, don't just solve for like the problem at the present. It's like, well, what is that a symbol of? Or what does that signify for you?
Yes.
And you have this incredible ability to reframe in the most beautiful way. It is worth just watching Burn Your Shit on Instagram just to hear how you reframe things with helping people think differently about their challenges and what they're looking to release. It's a true gift. It really is.
And it's funny because my publisher with Burn Your Shit, she said, can you put a few examples of the reframes you do in the book? I was like, oh, sure. And there are like 4 pages of reframes because once I got going, I was just like, and then this, and then this, and then this.
It is. And it's more than just like one sentence. Or like, I'm ready to release being overweight, like you take that to a whole nother level. So while we're on the moon, and then I want to come back to the meaning of rituals, but while we're on the moon, let's talk about the new moon ritual, because that is a little bit different than the full moon ritual.
Right. So I say in my readings all the time, you have to pull the weeds so you can plant the seeds. Yeah. And pulling the weeds is making space. It's creating capacity. We do that during a full moon. And then planting the seeds, that's for a new moon, because new moons, that's a new cycle. It's new beginnings. It's fresh starts. So that's a beautiful time to manifest. And I always tell people manifesting is not the ding-a-ling in front of the vision board. Like, oh, when am I getting married? Fingers crossed. It is about being really clear and focused on your intention. And you can do a vision board or journal or daydream or all the things and follow up that intention with the inspired action, which is just little baby steps to get the ball rolling, get the momentum going, and then forget the path. And don't focus on when or how. Keep an eye on what and why. And then instead of trying to plan and plot and visualize all the steps because it discounts all of the magic, you just want to say, okay, God, Buddha, universe, everything. Here's what I want and here's what I'm doing. Now, how will you help? And what have you got? And be open to seeing stepping stones or synchronicities or breadcrumbs that get you there somewhere better. People always want a blueprint. There's never going to be a blueprint, but there are breadcrumbs. So that's sort of manifesting in a nutshell. And if you do that kind of thing around a new moon, again, it just gives it a little cosmic juice.
Yes. Now, I participated in your new moon manifestation class. Are you going to be doing more of those in 2025?
I think what I'm going to do is consolidate them quarterly. Because doing them every month is getting tricky because I'm traveling a lot with doing retreats and things like that. But if I can do it quarterly, and I'm thinking you to sort of reposition as like a manifesting masterclass. Yep. So that we can still work with, I help people, just like with Burn Your Shit, I help people formulate their craft and intention for maximum impact, because someone will come in saying, because in this case, it's, I'm now ready to receive.
Right.
And instead of, I'm now ready to receive a business that I love that makes, 10 million a year. It's like, okay, that feels like lottery ticket buying,
Yes.
But how about I am now ready to step into opportunities that allow me to fully express my gifts and generate compensation that is abundant for me and whatever.
Right.
That kind of thing.
Yeah. Well, and I think doing it quarterly is totally great, to be honest, because I did it a couple months ago. Yeah. And I'm going to share the reframe that you gave me because I'm going to share this because it has 100% changed my mindset about what I am trying to grow into and evolve and become.
Wow.
And it's mind blowing to me because I was like, you barely know me. And we're on this, 2-hour Zoom and everybody's talking and, you have to go and write what your intention is. And then you're like, okay, who's willing to share? And I'm like, me, because I want help. I want to be better. I want to learn how to do this better. Right. And so my intention, and I don't remember it exactly, but just at a high level, my intention was like, I am ready to become a well-known speaker and podcaster, leveraging my story to empower women, I want to say, or something like that. And your reframe, and I'm going to read it, and this is why I think quarterly is great for you. So mine is, and this is what you said, I am now ready to get my voice into the world and have it embraced by those who will benefit from my wisdom and my magic.
Ooh, that is good.
So isn't that great? And so I journal about this every single day, about this emotion and this feeling. And what it was is, as you say, it's talking about going deeper. And I look at it as also going wider. Mm-hmm. It's not focusing on the path and the little steps to get there. It's focusing on how do you want to feel and be and living and what is your authentic, true life supposed to be without putting parameters and boxes around it, which is what you had said to me. Like you have these parameters and boxes about being a successful speaker and podcaster. who's to say that that is the path? And
Is
that
there
you have
something
to,
better, baby?
unless
Right?
there's something better, and open your mind out. And so why I say quarterly is awesome. I'm just using me as an example for everybody
Yes.
here, is that I have had that same thing. So one thing you didn't mention is like the magic woo woo at the end is that you write all of this and then you say, you know, and so it will be this or something greater for my higher self or something like that. And then you sleep on it and you put it under your
Literally.
pillow.
Yes.
Literally. Yes, literally. And so I have had that exact same one from 3 months ago. I've rewritten it every month as part of the new moon ritual. I have it in my pillowcase under my pillow. And the funny thing is, I've been doing it for 3 months. And the other day, my boyfriend goes, "Do you know you have a piece of paper in your pillow?" I was like, "Yes, I take it out every Sunday when I change the sheets and then I put it back." But what's so interesting is that it's helped me focus on how to reframe other things in my life by going through that exercise of really thinking about it differently. And I've read that statement to, I have a breathwork coach, I have a business coach. I have read that to them and they're like, "Wow, okay, that's really powerful." And I was like, "It is." And that's your magic, really. Like that is your magic. That is your woo magic, is your ability to tap into that and channel that to other people. So thank you.
Thank you for that. Thank you for that beautiful reflection, because that is ultimately, I mean, my tagline I always tell people is woo woo without the cuckoo. Like it gives you a sense of my approach. I take it seriously, but I'm not goofy about it. And my goal with everything I do is to inspire, empower, and enlighten, and to get these tools, whether it's tarot or rituals, into the hands of as many people as possible, because I've experienced myself and I've seen, and this is another amazing story that I might talk about in because I love it, like sharing stories. I've seen the impact that it has. It can be it is life changing.
It is life changing. And that reframe of what you said, of me getting my voice out into the world and having it embraced by those who will benefit from my wisdom and my magic. And it
What a
is
mantra.
it is such a mantra. And I journal about, what does that look like for me? How would I feel in that space? How would I be contributing? How would I feel like I'm purpose driven and mission driven if that were to be, so that I can try to step into being in that energy in that space. So it's
a beautiful like North Star.
It is. It's so powerful. And who
statement.
knew? Because, you know, I was like, "Oh, we're doing this new moon manifestation." Okay, sure.
Yeah, why not?
But yet it can lead to so many other things, which is so powerful. So thank you.
Well, thank you for doing the work. Because if you had just gone and not said anything, right, and left with your little statement, which was great, it was fine. It's not going to make things worse. But you know, you took a chance with that, like putting your hand up, and then you like, it's the intention and the inspired action. And a lot of people just get stuck at intention and then get resentful.
Right.
So well done. Yeah.
I want to talk really quickly about routine versus ritual, because that I found very interesting, because I feel like a lot of us have routines, but how do we change routines to make them more of a ritual?
I always say that a ritual is a routine or a habit that is imbued with loving intention.
Ooh.
So when you make your coffee in the morning, it can be you making your coffee in the morning. And it can also be a ritual. Rituals are these beautiful moments of presence, right? Because when you're saying, okay, this is sort of like my morning coffee ritual, or my skincare ritual, or my dancing naked under the full moon with a bunch of witches ritual, you know, and when you put intentionality behind it, just like we were talking about with the manifesting, like any action you take is preceded by intention. And so if your intention is, I got to get coffee, I got to get out the door, my God, I'm late, blah, 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 blah. Okay. And if your intention is, no, this is my time, I'm carving out this time, I'm indicating to my people, to universe, everything, that I'm worthy of this moment of pause and reflection and nourishment. And I'm just going to, you know, take my time with my little enjoyable cup of coffee.
Sure.
Do you see the difference?
Yeah. So different. Such different energy of a task that we're doing anyway. We're doing the task. We're doing the habit. We're doing the routine. So why not make it more powerful?
And everyone is doing ritual. Humanity is founded on ritual. I mean, dancing around the fire before the big hunt, that's a ritual. Blowing out birthday candles, ritual. Book club, ritual. You know, it's just having the awareness and intentionality that can then make it almost into like a superpower.
Yes. And you talk about all that in your book, which is really, you have so many examples in your book. And you're also very vulnerable in your book, which I commend you for that, because sometimes it's very hard to put yourself out there, but you do talk a lot about your life
Oh, thank you.
and how you integrate this into your life. So talking about your life and how you integrate this, what role does tarot, the cards, play in your everyday life, other than I know you post every day on Instagram and you do a reading and you explain it to everybody in the funniest, honestly, like truly everybody, I'm going to tag her, you got to go out and check this out. Like just funny and real way of explaining the cards. But how do you internalize tarot in your own life every day?
It starts with the card of the day. Honestly, I don't pull cards for myself very often at all, which is kind of hilarious. And also, I mean, again, they're a tool, right? They're a tool to help you tap into your intuition. So I can do that without the cards now.
Yeah.
You know, but they are a lovely visual prompt / guide. And I started posting card of the day, and half the time, even now, I'll post it thinking, well, this is obviously my message. This is so clear.
Of course.
What is
Yes.
calling me right now? This is ridiculous. No one else is going to get it like I am. And then that is when the DMs are coming in stronger than ever. Oh my God, this is my card. How did you know?
Yes.
And I can, even though I don't do it 7 days a week because mama's got to rest, but I do it Monday to Friday, the card of the day. And it's like this never ending dialogue between the collective and the cards and the message that is being delivered. So it is like a check-in moment every day, which is nice. And honestly, when I do events, if I'm sort of early and I have my deck and I'll just like do a quick little spread for myself and be like, oh, that's interesting. And I'll take a picture to be like, holy crap, roger that, tarot. But I don't usually sort of sit and okay, now I shall do a reading for myself. I used to do that more. I use free writing, where I talk about it in the book, where you're just writing wild. You're just writing without thinking or filtering yourself. I love to do that, or go for a swim. When I go for a swim, it's very ritualistic because I'm in a pool with lengths, so I can't get lost or deviate. So I can just lose myself. That's kind of where I can hook into that higher wisdom.
Right. And you do talk about the writing in your book. Like, even if you're just writing, I don't know what to write. I don't know what to write. I don't know what to write.
It's true.
Is the 3 minutes up? Is the 3 minutes up?
Yes. It's so.
I need to pee. I need to pee. I need to pee. Like, because you talk in the book about doing it in the morning.
It's true. Really, I do.
Yeah. Which makes it very
I'm just
real.
like, ugh, why did I start doing this? It sucks. But by the end, I'm always like, thank you.
It gets you in the right mindset to start your day.
Yeah, and I often get huge epiphanies. That's how I do my business planning, Jean. Like,
I do all of mine. I say to people, 100% of my ideas come from journaling and then meditating afterwards. 100% of them, or journaling and then going for a walk outside.
I was just going to say, going for a walk.
From nature. Yes. Every single business idea I've had, good or bad, comes from that. Because the universe is talking to you. You just have to pay attention and listen.
Yeah, you're closer to that universal flow when you're in nature.
Correct. So what's book 2 about?
Book 2 is the tarot book that started as a little PDF thing. And it's my version of tarot. It's changed quite a bit. I actually had to rewrite like 70% of it,
you did.
Which I did in like 3 months. Like, it was crazy. But I knew, that I could write in my sleep. That was it.
Sure.
I just had to shift the focus so it could be like a nice companion piece to burn your shit. So it is tarot. It's a really deep dive on the history of tarot, and also just what it is and what it isn't, how to do spreads, how to, pull cards for yourself, and a pretty in-depth explanation of each card as well. But before, it was like 70% cards and their stories, 30% like the ethics of tarot and the history and all, and how I work with tarot and my journey with tarot. And I had to flip it. So it's really just 30% about the cards themselves and 70% about just how it works, what's the collective unconscious, why was Carl Jung so hot for tarot? Like, it's so interesting. Anyway, and it is called Big Deck Energy.
Ooh, I like it. When's that coming out?
It's coming out in June 2025.
That is so soon.
I know. It was handed in a year ago.
Not to like make you cause alarm, but like, oh my goodness, that's so soon. I'm so excited for you.
Yeah, it's wild. It's wild.
And is it a little like pinch me? Wow.
Well, this one is, the first one was, because the first one was just, it was like, I always get weird visuals. In the train tracks and the cartoons, you see the guy with like the seesaw lever thing on that train track,
Yes.
that
Yes.
flatbed. And then it starts to go faster and faster and faster. And then his feet are flying behind him. That's what last year was.
That felt like.
With the book coming out. This feels more like measured and, and I sort of,
what you're doing.
First time at the rodeo. Yeah, but I'm going to do fun things. I'm trying to apply to set a world record, like with Guinness World Book of Records for number of tarot readings, like consistent like duration of doing tarot.
Oh my goodness.
Because I broke it. I mean, there is no record currently, so you have to apply to have it become a record. But I've done events in the past where I've done readings, honestly, with like 2 15-minute breaks for like 15 hours.
Oh my goodness.
I break that. I could do tarot. Yeah. So that's something
and it's
that
just
I think
happening.
Would be cool.
It's almost like you're just, and correct me if I'm wrong with this, it feels almost like you're just the channel for the energy. And so you
100%.
are just the channel for the message and the energy. And that's how you're capable of doing all that. It isn't you. It isn't necessarily you. You're the channel for the energy for that particular person.
Yeah. And it's whether it's a single person, a group, or like, the internet. When I write down words or speak words, there's wisdom there, there's experience, there's humor, there's all the things.
Oh yes.
But a wonderful medicine woman helped me sort of put it into words. Like my medicine is the energy that is imbued in the words.
Right. Yes.
So it's not
the way
just,
you deliver the message is your complete uniqueness.
Yeah. But there's that ephemeral, energetic something that is in the words as they're spoken or written, that is what makes it have the impact it has, I think.
Yeah. So are you still doing tarot readings for people? Can they still sign up on your website and do tarot readings?
Yep. I do all my readings are on Zoom. I do some events, and that's where I'll do them in person, but it allows me to be a lot more efficient when I'm reading, on a Zoom where we're not trying to meet somewhere. There's hellos and goodbyes, blah, blah, blah. It allows me to be more efficient and not have a massive wait list. And I think people are more open energetically when they're in their own space. Like everyone's just more relaxed.
Yes. Well, and you record the Zooms, which I find allows, when I've done it with you and whenever I've done any intuitive anything, it allows me to be present with what's happening and really listen to you without feeling like, oh my goodness, I need to take notes and write down every word you're saying because I'm not going to remember it and I'm not going to be able to connect the dots, especially when you're doing your reading with like the whole, I'm going to get this wrong, but where you're doing it's like a clock and every, you go all the way around. Yeah, right. And I was like, I am never going to remember what you just said.
And I talk for an hour straight and I talk.
You do?
I try to be mindful of my speed, but I get all like sweaty and excited and start talking really fast. So can you imagine trying to remember it? I'll forget it.
You couldn't. And you'll be like, and this card is related to this card. And I'm like, and what card was that? What number was that? I remember going back and be like, and what number was that? That was what, number 4?
Yeah. No, it's
so having the Zoom
recording
is amazing because you can go back and then the messages are there. So I think
and
that
it's also
far
my readings.
Outweighs.
Yeah, my readings I always say are from now to 6 to 9 months out. So there can be things I say in the moment that obviously track and resonate. And then there are things that you won't even really take in. And if you listen to the reading down the road, it's once life has happened or things have sort of, you've internalized the reading a bit more, then you look back and go, oh my God, that was the most important part. I can't believe it.
Okay, you say that now, and I'm going to go back and listen to my last reading from you.
Yeah, do.
Because I'm so curious. All right, before we run out of time.
Yes.
What's on the bucket list? And we are going to read a card. We're going to do a card too. But first, I want to know what is on your bucket list personally and professionally, because you are the manifesting guru. And so I am so curious what is on the bucket list for you.
My intention is to grow my visibility, network opportunities for doing more retreats, more speaking opportunities, going into the corporate space. I've been doing that, speaking to like lawyers and stuff. Everyone needs rituals and the so-called woo-woo in their life. And I have a third book that I'm mulling that's going to be more sort of like it's not a how-to thing. It's not fiction. I'm calling it a memoir. It's kind of like memoir, but Lori's memoir, but it's not my life. It's an experience I had. Anyway, it's a whole thing. So other projects, but yeah, expanding that and just getting more visible on things like this, on great podcasts and television opportunities, that kind of stuff.
Yeah, getting your voice out into the world.
Yeah, and personally is just to keep connecting with amazing people, because now that I am very like unshackled and, just free to be me, I'm meeting such amazing people.
I'm sure you are. You're attracting like-minded people into your space. And then it's so powerful. It is. It's so
just
powerful.
Keep expanding the coven. Yeah.
Yeah. Your tribe coven. Your tribe of supporters. Yes. Of support that lifts you up and helps you grow and keep going, because it is a journey. It's not a destination.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Would you read a card for us? I would love to have you read a card so everyone can get an idea of how you explain the cards, because it is truly amazing.
You'll hear me knock. That's just me knocking the energy of the last reading out, like a little energetic palette cleanser. I can pull a card for the collective, but Jean, I'm going to pull a card just for you first. Okay.
Okay. Sure.
Yeah. So let's just do a little shuffle, and I stare at you awkwardly and get your mojo in here. And then I cut the deck, and then let's see, what does Jean need to know right now? Okay, I mean, you're getting 3 cards because that's how tarot works sometimes. And you'll see why I pulled more. It's actually interesting. So first you got the 10 of Wands, which is lovely. This guy's lugging around this heavy load of sticks, and he's almost at his destination. So it's telling you a burden you've been carrying for some time. Physical, financial, spiritual, mental, emotional, or a combination will be lifted. And when it's lifted, it's like, oh God, I can breathe, like feeling lighter and taller, and a beautiful easing of burdens. So that's gorgeous. And I pulled more cards because tarot loves to be like, oh, do you like that? Do you want it? Here's the work. Or do you like that?
Work.
Don't screw it up, right? So to help facilitate this with as much speed, grace, ease as possible, here's the message you need to pay attention to, the 5 of Coins, which is a bit of a cautionary card. These 2 guys barefoot in the snow instead of inside with the money and the shelter and love and all that good stuff, because they were goofing around and missed a door back here. And it's telling you to pay attention, to be thorough and mindful and detail-oriented. Don't get OCD about it, but like when you're signing something or verbally agreeing to something, just know what you're getting into so it doesn't come back and bite you in the butt. And it's not saying something bad will happen, just something that could happen. If you're like, sure, yeah, okay. And then they go, is that your signature? And you're like, oh, no. So, and even though there's money here, I always say it could be sending out 50 resumes, realizing, they spelled the word resume wrong. Or it could be health related, like get that mole check. That looks kind of weird. It could be don't say you'll help the guy move, not knowing if it's a 5th floor walk up with a waterbed. Like just know what's what.
Know what you're getting into.
Do you see how if you're not doing that, it could delay or be a kink in the garden hose to that energy.
Yes.
And then the 3rd card, which could make this card that's telling you to pay attention, what could make that difficult is this bonkers cuckoo bananas Knight of Swords energy. This is Tasmanian devil. It's like trying to get on a log in the water, and there's just one nostril above the waterline. It's very unnerving and off-putting to not know what's around the corner, to not feel like you have a handle on things. And usually the cards will tell you, like, here's a lesson or here's a perspective. And this card is just going, yeah, right? What a gong show. Ugh. Like it is what it is. The good news is you can handle it even if you don't think you can. And it's not forever. It just feels like forever when you're in it. So see how you don't want this to get in the way of the paying attention to details and possibly delaying or impeding the easing of the burdens. See how it told the whole story?
I love it. No, crazy, which is why it's so impactful. And I remember when we did our reading, I was like, oh my goodness, that's so spot on. Like, oh my goodness, crazy, right? That is so, and I'm like, and you don't even know what's going on in my life or my relationships or like, nothing. And I'm like,
I know nothing.
That's exactly like, tarot gives me goosebumps every time because I just feel like it's so spot on with what you need to hear. And I think it's just like, for me, I take it as, I know that information. I know that, right? Like, I know that there are clear waters ahead, or I know that where I need to focus. Like, I know that. It's just reminding me that is what I need to focus on. And the fact that you always do the card, but here's the work kind of thing is really helpful, because that's like, okay, be aware of that landmine over there.
And you do need I always say it's not fortune telling. It's not going to be like, you're going to meet Bob at Starbucks on Tuesday. 'Cause that's goofy. But it is giving you a peek behind the energetic, like the curtain to see the energetic landscape, and what you do with the information is up to you. Like, take what works and ditch the rest. And it's more, like you said, validation, guidance, reassurance, bit of a nudge. Do the work. Yeah. Do you want me to pull a card for the listeners?
I do. Let's build a card. Pull a card for the listeners.
So if you're listening or watching this is your message. What do we need to know right now? Yay. Okay. I pulled 2 again. I'm not being tight with my words here today.
Right.
6 of Wands. This guy is so great. They're throwing him a parade. He's on his horse. Everyone's cheering him. This is getting recognition, validation, kudos, accolades for who you are and what you're doing. And it's often, career related, but it could be someone who's home with kids or retired. It's about putting yourself out there to be really seen and being celebrated for that. Ooh. So whether that shows up as a big bag of money or a way to go you, or, oh my God, how does she do it? Or how does he do it? It's getting that external praise, recognition, validation for who you are and what you're about. And I pulled another card because, how can we make that happen? Yeah. Right. And then, no biggie. It's just the most powerful card in the deck, the Ace of Swords. And the Ace of Swords is a super bossy card. The other cards, like I said, here's a lesson. Here's something to look at. This card is saying, we're done screwing around. Here's what you're going to do. Yeah. It's about stepping into your power and being the author of your next chapter rather than a passive reader, being the protagonist of your story, not someone else's sidekick, being out there unapologetically, authentically yourself, knowing it's enough because you're enough as you are in this moment, not needing anyone else's permission, and knowing that you need to be out there shining as bright as you can, being as loud as you want, taking up all the space you need. And if someone comes along going, that's really loud and that's super bright, well, put on earmuffs and get sunglasses. Like, your comfort is not my problem. That's the vibe. It's saying, it's like you're a peacock, but a dude peacock. So they have the feathers, and your feathers have been tucked under, not taking up too much space, playing kind of small. And the Ace of Swords is saying, absolutely not. That's not going to cut it. It is time to plant your feet center stage, get the tail feathers out, and start shaking them like a Vegas showgirl. Yeah. And do you see how that is how you get that recognition, praise, validation? It's time. It's a call.
It's time. It's time. There is and it's the Friday the 13th, and we're ending the year, and I'm going to make sure this comes out in January so that everyone can have some wisdom on how to start the year. And I'm going to link everything to your Instagram, to your book, to your website, because everyone, I can't say enough. It's just, if you have even the slightest interest in understanding tarot and rituals, just follow and just listen, and you'll start to learn. And then before you know it, you will be totally sucked in to Lori's magic. It truly is magic. And it's real, honestly. And hopefully from my story, everyone can understand, like, you have really impacted my life and helped me tremendously. So I thank you. Thank you for your time. I hope you have a beautiful holiday, and I can't wait for book number 2 to come out. So thank you for your time.
I appreciate it, Jean. Thank you.
Thank you. Bye. Thank you for joining us for another episode of the House of Jermar podcast, where wellness starts within. We appreciate you being a part of our community and hope you felt inspired and motivated by our guest. If you enjoyed this episode, please write us a review and share it with friends. Building our reach on YouTube and Apple Podcasts will help us get closer to our mission to empower 1 million women to live all in. You can also follow us on Instagram at House of Jermar and sign up to be a part of our monthly inspiration newsletter through our website, houseofjermar.com. If you or someone you know would be a good guest on the show, please reach out to us at podcast@houseofjermar.com. This has been a House of Jermar production with your host, Jean Collins. Thank you for joining our house.